And we're back with episode 26 of Dawg Football Weekly. It's your host, Reed, with the co-host,
Russ.
And today, no guesting on the show. Just going to talk a little bit about the NFL draft and about really our tiers of the best teams in college football. Russ, let's jump right into it as far as the draft goes. What do you think about the Falcons pick at number 8?
You know, I liked the pick a little bit, and I also extremely disliked it. Bijan Robinson, obviously a great player. Nothing against the guy. I think he's going to do great on the Falcons. But it's weird taking a running back after your running back just rushed for 1,000 yards last year
As a rookie.
And instead of building up an offensive line, you go and try to replace him, which is super odd to me. I think Bijan's going to do great, but we just had a guy kind of break out, and now we're trying to replace him.
I was at a loss for words with the pick. I'm not a huge NFL fan. I'm not crazy about the Falcons like I am about the Dogs, obviously. But at the pick, when they picked Bijan Robinson, I was at a loss for words, Russ. I couldn't get words out. Because there's so many other needs for this team to get to the next level, to be a playoff team, to be a Super Bowl contender that needed to be addressed at this pick or later in the first round if they traded the pick, then getting a running back. And, I'm one of these people who I'm a little optimistic about this Falcons team. I think they have a decent shot at making the playoffs. The division is weak. Desmond Ridder, I like him as a quarterback. I think they've done well in free agency, but I thought a good draft class would definitely put this team over the top. But then they pull this crap, and they go and get a running back. And I'm not so angry about them picking a running back. I just wish they would have used a 4th round and 5th round pick on a running back, because there is great value for running backs later on in the draft. You can get nearly the same production that Bijan will have with a later pick. Picking a guy like Kenny McIntosh, picking a guy like Tank Bigsby. There's plenty of backs in this class. There are plenty of good backs that could start in the NFL, and it confused me. Russ, what's a pick, or can you name me a pick that you did not like in the first round? Besides the Falcons, obviously.
I would have to go with 12 Jamar Gibbs with the Detroit Lions. I like the player, obviously. I think he's super fast. He's really good. But I don't see him as a first-round pick. To me, he is more of, a late second round, early third round guy. Just because he's a running back. Running backs don't normally go high. And didn't the Lions trade up for him? Or did they traded up to pick this guy? Obviously, they knew that DeAndre Swift was leaving, I guess, at the time. But, yeah, that's not my favorite pick. What about you, Reed?
That pick's obvious to me. A pick that I thought, it's also a player that I think is going to be a great NFL player, and it's definitely not going to go down as like a bust pick or a bad pick. But the Seattle Seahawks at number 5, they picked Devin Witherspoon, cornerback at Illinois, and I think he's by far the best corner in this class. But at 5, you had the ability to pick Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson, who I think are they're the 2 best defensive prospects in this class. I put Tyree Wilson above Will Anderson. Tyree Wilson has a great pressure rate. He's long. He's physical. He's bigger. His frame is definitely a force to be reckoned with. I think once that foot injury he has clears up, I think he's going to be a great NFL player. And they went corner, and I think they addressed a need at least. They didn't just go, oh, let's pick a running back. Let's pick whoever.
Yeah. What do you think? Keely Ringo dropped all the way down to number 105. And we were talking about him being some kind of first-round pick guy.
Yeah.
Is that surprising to you?
Going into this draft, I had a feeling Keely Ringo would be picked 2nd round. If I was betting on the draft, I would have said Keely Ringo, 2nd round pick, book it. It's going to happen. And he fell out of day 2, which really shocked me. And I was sitting here going, why is he why is he falling? Why is he falling? And there are reasons that we do not know. Maybe it's something completely outside of football why he fell out. I don't know. But I really like his landing spot. I like that he can grow as a corner, or heck, he can play safety in the NFL. The thing about Keely Ringo is that he has an elite side and speed combination that you cannot find. You can find it rarely in corners. He's got size, he's got speed, he's got length, he's got everything you want as a corner. He's just a little kind of raw and kind of just a raw prospect. He's a project for the NFL.
I agree. And, we're talking about where the draft's gone. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles love Georgia up there, with all the people they've picked, with Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, and Jalen Carter in this draft, and Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean in the last draft. That may be a big problem for some teams. That didn't you say somewhere that they said that Philadelphia picks Georgia players because they're winners?
Yeah, I saw something.
They're used to the confetti falling.
Well, yeah, and Howie Rosenbaum, the GM, or he's vice president of operations, or he's the GM, I think, at the Eagles. He, Nick Sirianni came down to Georgia practice last year, and they asked him, which guys do you like? And Nick Sirianni said, all of them. And I think there's a big emphasis, people are starting to notice these Georgia guys, especially in the last two draft classes. They got this freak athlete. But this isn't anything new. This isn't anything new to Georgia fans. Ever since Kirby Smart came in, he has done a fantastic job at developing these young men into pro football players, into guys that can come on an NFL roster and make an impact right away. And I think that's so critical and so huge to recruiting high school kids to show them, hey, look, you put in the work for 3 or 4 years, or heck, 6 years like Stetson Bennett. You can go in the first round. You can go in the second round. You can be anything you really want to be when you come in and commit to this program fully.
Yeah, I agree. But also you have guys like Kenny McIntosh, who about didn't get picked, and Kieris Jackson, who signed a deal after the draft. That's kind of Kenny McIntosh falling all the way to number 237. Kind of surprised me.
It shocked me. Kenny McIntosh. Somebody told me the other day, they go, "Oh, he's too slow. I wouldn't want Kenny McIntosh. He's too slow." Kenny McIntosh ran a horrible 40 time at a 4.64, I think.
Yeah,
he's a lot faster than that in the game. He's elusive. He's quick. He's a great receiving back. When I saw him at in the 200s, I was shocked because I thought there's a team out there. There's such a need for running backs that can run the ball in between the tackles and also go out and catch the football. And I think that's what the NFL is shifting towards. And after Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, everybody's like, "Oh, well, what running backs? We're gonna worry about next year. We're gonna worry about it whenever." But there's a good running back class this year. And I think a lot of people missed out on a good player in Kenny McIntosh.
Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks definitely got a good one. Kieris Jackson not being drafted, was that a surprise to you, or did you think that was going to happen?
It's hard to tell when you go to day 3 on where guys are going to get picked because a lot of people lose focus on the draft after the first 2 rounds. Everyone's like, "Oh, whatever, what the heck?" We don't know who's going to get picked where. I didn't know if he had done enough to be picked. One thing I think definitely has hurt him is that he hasn't played a whole lot in the past 2 years. He's been kind of here and there because of some really unfortunate injuries, some really unfortunate, he just got unlucky. He wasn't able to get on the field for a full season. And I think that's definitely hurt his draft case. I think he's definitely talented enough to make an NFL roster and play for a few seasons. And who knows, as if he got the opportunity, it's up to him now for what he wants to do with it.
Yeah, and I'm really big on Kieris Jackson. He's from around here, coached by our current coach for football, and I think he was really a role player on Georgia this year. He had a small role in the offense, but I feel like he has the potential to go out there and show people what he can do. and possibly be a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2. I don't know that he's a wide receiver 1 at all, but yeah, I think the Tennessee Titans got a good one.
Russ, probably the most surprising pick to me would be this one right here. Stetson Bennett going in the 4th round. What did you think about that?
The Rams, they like their Georgia quarterbacks, obviously. I'm not big on the pick. That could have been used for, cornerback. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey in the offseason. Anything else besides Stetson Bennett. I mean, they drafted him, I know, because he's a competitor and he wants to win, but he will never be a starting quarterback ever.
Russ, listen to what I read. This was an ESPN article this past weekend. The Los Angeles Rams, this is all rumor and speculation. We're trying to groom Stetson Bennett into attempting to make him their starting quarterback after Matthew Stafford. What do you think about that?
I think there's too much to be groomed. He's he the way Kirby Smart used him in the offense at Georgia is just a different kind of trust, and I don't know that anybody else can do
He's
that.
A product
because,
of Todd Monken's offensive geniusness.
yeah, I mean, Stetson was a role player, and he could throw the football. I mean, Todd Monken drew up everything he could to make Stetson successful. So,
Well, and something else that hasn't really been addressed a whole lot was how Todd Monken, he kind of catered to Stetson's needs as a quarterback. Stetson Bennett cannot stand in a pocket and throw clean pocket, unclean pocket. He needs throwing lanes. He needs to be able to see. He's not a very big guy. And you're playing with a bunch of 6'5" linemen. They got to get him outside the pocket and in some free space where he can really see the whole field. Russ, something that I saw today, Chargers coach Brandon Staley put out talking about TCU being on the same level as Georgia and Alabama as far as production of players and as far as their football programs go. Russ, what do you think of that idiotic take?
well, I mean, it's obvious that that's not true. We saw it in the national championship game that Georgia, especially, is way better than TCU, and that's on 65-7. You know what I'm saying? Alabama probably. I mean, they probably could have beat Georgia this season if they wanted to. That's something to think about. They didn't have their best year on completing games and stuff, but
Alabama's still Alabama at the end of the day.
yeah, Alabama would kill TCU.
Well, you saw what they did to Kansas State in the bowl game. They beat Kansas State by 30 points, and Kansas State beat TCU. You can do what you want with that information. I have some numbers to back that up. Over the past 5 seasons, because this has really just ticked me off today and just put me over the edge all afternoon. Georgia's 60-10 over the past 5 seasons, record-wise. Well, we're not going to postseason where that's just for the record. Alabama is 62-7. Russ, guess TCU's record.
30 and 25.
You bet on the money. 36-26. Georgia. This just set me off today, Russ. I couldn't even speak when I heard this quote. I think people are oh well, Georgia wasn't that good. Weak schedule. But you remember the Missouri game? You remember
You remember the Ohio State
Kent
game?
State? You remember Kent? This team wasn't. It's great. This team, and then they put 62-7 on you. Well, TCU was overmatched. TCU didn't stand a chance. It wasn't a fair game. Boring national championship. But then we fast forward 3-4 months. TCU's on the same level as Sam Pro. They're not. They're not as far as development. They're not as far as recruitment. They're not as far as just football. When you line up 11 on 11, offense and defense, special teams, backups, your scout teams, Georgia's better at every single aspect of the game.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time. I mean, the SEC is the best conference in the nation. and anybody who doesn't play in it is not going to be better than it.
And I started Russ. This quote,
besides maybe Clemson,
this one Ohio State too,
or Ohio State.
This one simple, statement by the Chargers coach made me draw up a pyramid of the tiers in college football. Let me know what you think about this. So my tier 1, and this is just the top tier teams. I have Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Those are my top 3 teams in the country, top 3 programs over the past decade or so. I say 5 years.
Next, you could throw Clemson in that if you wanted to.
Yeah, they're in my tier 2 just because the last years haven't been great. But, I think they're on the verge of tier 1 status. Tier 2, I have LSU, Clemson, Oklahoma. Do you think of any more teams that could go in that?
What'd you say, Tennessee?
I haven't put Tennessee in there.
Oh. Oklahoma what?
LSU, Clemson, Oklahoma.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head right now.
My tier 3 was, this is kind of my last tier. I didn't go really fully in depth. I had Florida. Well, heck, now I'm forgetting. Florida.
Heck, dude, you could put Florida at daggum your 5th or 6th tier.
Well, they had a good couple of years with Dan Mullen. I thought Dan Mullen got fired.
But Anthony Richardson's just so good.
That's a pick that, I'm going to hold my tongue on it because usually whatever I say is completely wrong, and I hate the pick. But at the same time, if he pans out, the Colts are going to look like geniuses in 5 years. But I don't see him panning out. I can't even forget where I was about my tier. I had Florida, Texas, because Texas has had some decent years. They're not back, though. I think they will be this year. And I can't even remember what I was. Michigan. Michigan's a good program. They've built up.
They're good until they play the Dogs.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
That's about the dang truth. Russ, one more thing before we go. Going into the summer, as we get closer to summer, what is one? I want a record prediction right now of the Dogs go in 2023.
How many games they play?
Play 12 regular season games.
12 regular season games.
Postseason, SEC championship, playoff semifinal, natty.
You tell me yours real quick. I'm gonna look up the schedule real quick.
From today, I'm going 15-0. I got them going undefeated. I don't see a team right now. Obviously, my record prediction might change throughout the summer and as we get closer to fall. There's not a team on this schedule that's better than Georgia. There's not a team on this schedule that is favored against Georgia. Alabama won't be better than Georgia. LSU will not be better than Georgia. Whoever they meet in the playoffs will not be better than Georgia. It's a matter. This season's up to Georgia, I think. Really, this team on how far they want to go, because I think they have more talent, they have better coaching, they have better development, and they have more depth than anybody else. But it's kind of up to them to determine how far they go.
I like your pick with 15-0. The only place I could see would be Tennessee. Obviously, they're playing in Knoxville, which is going to be tough. Obviously, they also play Florida in Jacksonville, which is, I guess, is kind of home for Florida. But that's another thing. They need to move that game back to.
I wanted to go back
either side.
I want to go back to go home and home every year. Where you play in Athens, you play in Gainesville, you play. I think it's going to be a lot better for the rivalry. I think it could also be a lot better for recruiting for both schools. You can't hold recruiting trips for your biggest rivalry because you're playing at a neutral site in a pro stadium.
Yeah,
and it's always pouring down rain there.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Dawg Football Weekly. We hope you enjoy.